Okay, I was going to put this at the end of the video, but I thought, you might need to know how much oil you're going to use in that mold so you can calculate or use your soap calculator to calculate, your lye. So I'm going to stick this in the front. Your square, for a square rectangle mold, here's your formula. You're going to multiply your length times your width times your height, and that's going to give you the total. And then you multiply that by 0.4, and that will give you the ounce of oils for your mold. So for example, your mold is 15 inches long by 2.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. Oops, I forgot to add one thing in there. And then you multiply that. You multiply that by 0.4, and that gives you 52.5 ounces of oils. I hope that makes sense. So in other words, you'll multiply length times width times height. That'll give you a number. Then you multiply that number by 0.4, and that'll give you the ounce of oils for your mold. Okay, for a round pipe, like a PVC pipe or a round mold, what you're going to do is multiply your pi, which is usually 3.14, times the radius of the circle. Now first, what you got to do is figure out what is your radius of the circle. The radius is half the width of the pipe. So what you'll do for let's do an example of a 3-inch PVC pipe that is 12 inches long. You're going to multiply 3.14 times 1.5, which is half of a 3-inch PVC pipe, times 1.5 again, which is the other half of the PVC pipe, times, let's say that this pipe is 12 inches tall. That'll give you 84.78 as your total. Then you take this number here, you multiply that number by 0.4, and it's going to give you the total ounces here. So for a 12-inch tall, 3-inch, a 3-inch PVC pipe that is 12 inches long, you're going to need 33.912 ounces of oils. I just round that up to 34 ounces of oil. It's pretty much as simple as that. Again, let's say you had a 4-inch PVC pipe. So you would use the same pi number and multiply it 2 by 2 by 12. And that'll give you a number to multiply by 0.4, and that'll give you your total ounces. I hope this makes sense. I'm not a math whiz. My son's way better at this than I am. He's probably going to be laughing at me right now for trying to explain this. But that's how I figure out how much oil that I need in a recipe for a certain mold, because I have all kinds of molds. Anyway, I hope this helps. And like I said, I was going to do this at the end of the video, but now I'm going to flip it over and put it in the front. And we'll get started with the soap calculator. Okay, now that we're going to go to soapcalc.net and head into the lye calculator here. Everything in this calculator, it has numerous amounts of information, and you can kind of scroll over everything, and it'll show you, it'll give you pop-up boxes of information. Some of it will take you to different websites to further read on information, and some of it just has little pop-up information windows. It's broken down into 8 sections to fill in before you calculate your recipe. First of all, you need to choose your type of lye. 2 different types of lye, one sodium hydroxide, NaOH, and then potassium hydroxide, KOH. NaOH is used for bar soap. KOH is used for liquid soap. We're going to use the bar soap. We're going to head over to section 2, which is the weight of the oils. You can put it in by pounds, ounces, or grams. I normally do it on ounces. However, if I'm going to make a small batch, I use grams because it measures more accurately. I'm going to add in 32 ounces of oil for this batch. So this is going to make a 2-pound batch of soap, approximately. All right, your water. Okay, the soap calculator already has a default 38% of water percentage of oils, or however you say that. But anyway, it's already defaulted at 38. That is generally referred to as full water. So this is a good way to start out if you're a beginning soap maker. Just do your full water. Or if you're doing hot process, you want to use your full amount of water, because during the cooking process your water evaporates anyway. And if you don't put full water in at the beginning, you're going to end up with dried soap before the end of the cook. And that'll make it more difficult to mold, and your bar won't be as pretty. Also, if you're doing cold process, it's generally helpful to do full water if you're trying to do an elaborate swirl with different colors. Or if you're not sure if your fragrance oil is going to behave, because some fragrance oils or even essential oils can really make your soap trace speed up, and it can get really thick on you fast. For soap makers that are more experienced, you can use the lye concentration instead. And what this does is you set your lye concentration. Generally, when I'm doing cold process soap, I set it at 33%. And that's just the concentration of the lye or lye and liquid mix. And when it says, also, I meant to say that when it says water, that's either water, milk, tea, whatever you're going to use in your soap. It's the liquid that you use to make your lye. Getting back to concentration, as you get more experienced, or experienced soap makers may go a little bit higher in percentage. The full water percentage is around 26.6%. Generally, when I do cold process with my recipes that I've used before, I'll do 33%. So for this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and do the full water. And down here, water to lye ratio. That is just, you can do like, if you want to do 1 part water to 1 part lye, it'll calculate it like that. Let's say you want to do 2 parts water, 1 part lye. You have to do a 1-to-1 ratio, because you can't go really any lower than that, because if you do, your lye's not going to dissolve properly in your water. So I really don't mess with this. I might, and what this lye concentration is, when you do a lower percentage, or a higher percentage, of your lye concentration, that's called a water discount. And if you're on any of the forums and you're like, what is a water discount? That's what that is. You're making the concentration of your lye a little stronger. And when you do that, you also need to be even more careful and wear your safety gear, because the higher the concentration, the more volatile and hot that lye is going to become. So you want to mix it in a proper container as well. So let's move on. We're going to do full water. On to number 4, your super fat and fragrance. Super fat, the lye calculator defaults at 5%. I generally do anywhere from 5 to 8, depending upon my recipe for a normal recipe. Usually I've really never gone on a normal recipe that's not a salt bar, of course. That's a different video. I don't go over 8. I generally leave it at 5, and that's whether I make hot process or cold process. Even on now, when you superfat an oil or you superfat your soap, what that is, it gives it like a lye discount. So what it's going to do is it's going to calculate your lye at a smaller number, so you still have free oils within your soap. Now, you're generally not going to know exactly what oils are left in that soap. It could be a mixture of whatever oils you use. However, I know there's one oil that you have a really, really, really good chance of having some of it left in your soap, and that's shea butter, because shea butter doesn't all saponify anyway. That's why I like to use that a lot in my recipes. But it's a very conditioning product, and it's just really nice, shea butter. You ought to give it a try. Now, on the super fatting also, whenever I'm doing hot process, you can still leave it at 5%. You can still even add your special oil that you want to super fat at the end of the cook, but I wouldn't go over 1 ounce I'd say per 2-pound batch. About 1 ounce of extra oil, of whatever you want it to be. Let's say you wanted to add some extra cocoa butter or extra jojoba oil, which is, at the end of the cook. Now, the one thing you need to watch out on, especially in hot process or when you're super fatting your soap, not to use a oil such as flaxseed oil. There's other oils, you can check them out. I think maybe avocado oil or hemp seed oil. That's another good one. Any oil with a very short shelf life, you need to watch out when you super fat with that, especially in hot process, because what can happen is, and this happens in cold process too, if you super fat with one of these low shelf life oils, your oils can call what they call DOS, and it's dreaded orange spot. And what that's caused from, you get these orange spots all over your soap coming up, and it's because your oils have gone rancid in your soap that were not saponified. So that's one thing to be careful on. If you're going to super fat with an oil, make sure it's not an oil that has a short shelf life. Now below that, you're going to put in your fragrance. I normally use like 0.75 ounces per pound of oils when I do fragrance oils. Essential oils, it just depends. So you put in the number you would like. Some people do 1 ounce per pound of oils. It's just entirely up to you and the fragrance that you're using. Then you're going to go on to soap qualities. Now, the lye calculator gives you a wealth of information and kind of gives you an idea of what these soaps are going to do, what these oils are going to do in the soap. It's not exact. For instance, olive oil is going to have it's going to show in the soap calculator. If you were to do a Castile soap, which is just olive oil, water, and lye, it's going to show in the soap calculator that it's going to be a very soft bar. It's never going to harden up. That's not true. If any of you have ever used Castile soap, it hardens up really, really hard. It just might take a little bit longer. And it's a very, very, very moisturizing and mild soap. It's great soap to use if you've got sensitive skin or even on babies. And you'll notice also, if you were to use olive oil, it's not going to even show any cleansing properties, but I can guarantee olive oil soap or Castile soap will clean you just as well as any other soap. Now I'm going to show you an example of what I'm talking about. before I go into another soap recipe real quick. Olive oil, its hardness is 17. And up here, if you go over the hardness here, and this is where it's showing olive oil, it's showing the oil's properties. Hardness, it recommends 29 to 54, higher being harder. Well, look at that. Hardness is only 17. It's a soft oil. It's not a hard oil. You know, it doesn't solidify. So, you're like, you know, maybe how in the world is that going to make soap? Well, it does. So, like I said, this soap calculator gives you an idea. So what you're going to have to do is just use it to create recipes and try them out. And it's an excellent, excellent tool. I'm going to go ahead and do a recipe here of, we're going to start out with castor oil. And you double click on it and it'll move it over to the side here for your soap recipe. And then the next, we're going to go down and click on coconut oil. And every time you click on an oil, it's going to give you their individual soap properties. So if you highlight it, it'll give you its individual soap properties. Next, we're going to go down to olive oil. I do olive pomace. The difference between, and this is how I use it because it really doesn't specify. Olive oil is generally, I use this if I was to use extra virgin olive oil. It actually has less conditioning than your run-of-the-mill low-grade olive oil, which is olive oil pomace. That's what I use, is olive oil pomace, because according to the soap calculator, it's actually got better qualities than the extra virgin olive oil, so why would I pay as much? I'm going to go down here and just to show you how diverse that this soap calculator is. It even has Walmart Great Value Shortening. If you leave your cursor on the Walmart Great Value Shortening, you're going to see that it's the Great Value Shortening with beef, tallow, and palm. So if you're in Walmart, make sure you read the labels to make sure that that's the shortening that you're getting. I think it even has Crisco in there as well. It has lard, even the name brand kind. So you just search for the oils that you're looking for. Excuse me. Alright, we're going to use these 4 oils to make our recipe. Now, what you do is you put in the percentage of oils you want. For instance, castor oil. I usually use 5% in all my soaps because castor oil not only lends conditioning, it doesn't lend any hardness to the bar or cleansing, but the conditioning and it adds bubbles, and it's just a great oil to add in your soap. We're going to put in 5% of that. And this whole recipe, it has to add up to 100%. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't put in the correct amount. 15% coconut oil. Let's do 50%. I'm sorry. Let's do now 25% olive oil and 50% just regular Walmart Great Great Value Shortening. Let's calculate this recipe and see what happens. Uh-oh. The total percent does not equal 100. Adjust by adding 5. It's doing my math for me. So let's go ahead and add 5%. Now let's calculate that recipe. Alright, when you calculate the recipe and your percentage off to the side under ounces, it's going to give you your ounces. Once you've calculated your recipe, then you want to go to the view or print recipe screen. You just click on right under where you calculate recipe, you click on view or print recipe. All right. It's going to bring you to another tab on your computer, and it's going to have all your information on there. You can type in your soap name, and then it tells you total weight of oils is 32, your water percentage is 38, your super fat or your lye discount is going to be 5%, your lye concentration is 26.614%, and then it even gives you your water to lye ratio. This happens to be 2.757 to 1. So you got 2.757 to water to 1 lye parts, that is. And it's going to give you your fragrance weight. You need 1.5 ounces of fragrance because remember we entered in 0.75 per pound of oils on the other page. Now, here's the amounts of water and lye that it's calculated for you. You're going to use 12.16 ounces of water to 1.41 ounces of lye. It also shows you in pounds and in grams. Like I said, if you want a really accurate reading, use your grams. And then we go down to the oils, and it's going to give you a breakdown of each one, your ounces to measure out all your oils. Down here on this bottom part, it's going to give you kind of a subtotal of what it thinks your quality of your bar is going to be like. We're going to go through this. The hardness of the bar. It gives you a suggested range, 29 to 54. Your recipe is 46. So it's in the mid-range. It's going to be a pretty good hard bar. The cleansing, anywhere from 12 to 22. Your recipe is 13. Now, as I stated with the olive oil example, cleansing, the lower your number is, really doesn't mean that your bar soap is not going to clean you. What it means is your bar soap is going to be more mild. The higher the number, the more harsh it's going to be. So just keep that in mind. I know on my recipes I tend to go a little bit lower than the 12. Sometimes it's around 9 to 12 is usually the range I aim for. And it makes a really nice gentle bar of soap. Conditioning. This recipe is 51 when its range is 44 to 69. So you've got some great conditioning in this bar of soap. 14 to 46 on bubbly, and it's 17. So this bar is going to bubble up. Its creaminess, they suggest 16 to 48. This is 38, which is on the higher end. So what you're going to end up having is a bubbly, but lower, like more dense bubbles. That's going to be kind of a thick foamy bubble. So it's going to lather up real thick and creamy. And this also, different things that you can put in your soap can, make it a little bit different, such as if you add sugar to your lye water or honey to your soap, or using beer instead of water. Different things that you do to your soap is going to completely change the recipe qualities. So, like I said, this is a general guideline. Now, iodine, 41 to 70. Now, on this one, you want to keep it under 70 because generally it says that, if you go over 70, now it could cause your bar to be too soft. Well, as we made the example of the olive oil, that's just not always true. But like I said, it's a good general guideline. The INS is generally kind of like a total rundown of your entire bar. The higher end, 165 gives you a harder bar, and 136 gives you a softer bar. And what it does is kind of, tell you the general range that your bar is in, and how balanced out it is. This is at 153, so I'd say it's a pretty balanced bar of soap. So it's going to be great. Now, on the bottom of this, you're going to have a space you can type in the additives you want to use. You can write any notes. You can type it in, or you can print this out and write it in. I keep a notebook of all my recipes. I print out all my recipes, and then I add my notes, and I keep it in a book. So even if I don't like the recipe, I'll just toss it out. But if I do like the recipe, there it is in my book, ready to go for the next batch of soap I want to make. I hope this answered some of your questions. Oh, I wanted to add one more thing. This over here, what this is telling you is the total of all your oils. It's giving you the values. Let's go back over to the other page. Your fatty acids in all the oils. So, like great value shortening here, it shows the different fatty acids in that oil, and the combined oils. It's going to show you the combined oil fatty acids. I'm not a chemist. I've read a little bit into that, but I'm not going to get much into that. You can click on each one. It'll take you to a website, and you can learn a little bit about the fatty acids and their benefits and stuff. So I'll leave that up to you. Well, I'm pretty much done with this tutorial, and I hope I helped you out. I made this for a friend of mine, and you know who you are. And if you knew how many times I did takes on this, you would just laugh. So, if y'all have any questions, just holler at me. If I don't know the answer, I will try to point you in the right direction. And I hope everyone enjoys their soaping. Bye for now.